Welcome to Music City Fitness with your hosts Josh Gamble and Kat Beach. Talking real deal health and wellness and, well, all around body talk. Their friends and colleagues from across the globe are here to share their views with you too. It's just another day in the journey, so grab a drink and a bite to eat and hang with them for a while as they open up new ideas for you.
Okay, you're live. You are live.
Welcome to Music City Fitness, you guys. I'm Kat Beach, and this is my incredible co-host, Josh Gamble.
Hey, man.
Hello. You know, we want to start off tonight. We both did, Josh did an Instagram live, and I did a Facebook live, but we wanted to start off tonight giving a whole lot of love to Music City because we went through some really challenging times last night with the tornadoes. And before I begin the whole process, I wanted to just pop this over to Josh so he could talk about ANSI Blue for just a moment, or ANSI. I always say ANSI, but ANSI Blue.
No, of course. So we, for everyone that's listening and who gets the podcast on later, and those of y'all that have not heard, we got hit with a pretty bad tornado last night. We have some friends here in Music City that are hurting. Luckily, none of us personally lost anybody, but we did have a lot of friends who lost some supplies, cars, houses, apartments they lived in. So we've partnered with our friends ANSI Blue over from the Belmead area with if anyone has any sort of cleaning supplies, toiletries, anything that they can help donate. ANSI Blue is going to be a drop-off center for the local community, and we're going to have them all distributed out there. So anyone who lives in the Belmead, Bellevue area, ANSI Blue is right over there by the St. Thomas Hospital across from Harding. I know there's plenty of places that are also helping. We just wanted to give them a shout out and thank you for being a part of that and donating their facility. So if you have a chance or you have time to donate, we would really appreciate it, especially diapers was one of the biggest things that someone kept mentioning. There's gonna be a lot of cleaning supplies. Everyone's got paper towels, things like that, toiletries and stuff. But like diapers are a big thing because there were definitely some families with some little kiddos that were affected from this last night. But if you guys could help with that, we'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And big prayers for everyone. We wanted to make sure that we came on tonight, though, because we're really blessed to have Addison Darrow here with us again this week. Addison, hello, honey.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing well. You know, we're getting by. It was a night and it's been a day. But as somebody who wasn't living in Nashville when the flood hit in 2010, and seeing a lot of the posts about this is what we do. Josh mentioned it earlier. You're going to find out why we're the volunteer state. It's been really incredible, just as somebody who moved to Nashville with kind of no plan and nothing and didn't know anybody and was, compelled to stay here because of the people. You see even more of that today. No. And so there's that. So there's a lot of hope, and just, reach out if you need us. It's hard to ask for help, but
True.
We got you.
True. Was your neighborhood okay?
Yeah, it kind of went around us, through us. I'm in downtown, but quite close to the river, but also only about, quarter mile from the heart of Germantown. So we heard it, it was a lot, but no significant damage, on my building specifically. But it was a long night, and so
we're glad you're okay.
Onward and upward, back at y'all. Thank you
right?
for
right, onward and upward. That's the truth.
Yeah.
For so many. So it's kind of a somber way to start the show, but at the same time, it's full of love, and Nashville is very resilient and amazing. You're right. The people here are amazing. They came out in full force to help, and it's scary. What happened was scary. So it's and it was tragic and not just in Nashville, just across Middle Tennessee. So what a true blessing to be here tonight. Thank you for making sure that you came on tonight. I know that not everybody wanted to do this, but grateful.
But I think it could also be, I think we bring some sort of like a different perspective on things. And maybe this is just, sometimes people want something different to focus on right now, something funny, humorous, informative. And I literally at the gym all day training, like it was nonstop news coverage, which is great and amazing. But it's like, you're glad everyone's good and well, but it's like, what else can we do besides help promoting and pushing for volunteer work and where to drop off the supplies, help bring a little bit of like maybe some joy and some, laughter and, on a somber day like we had today.
Well, you certainly did. Just for everybody who's listening and watching, I went to work out because Josh coaches me, and you just made me laugh my behind off. That was it was worth it. I hurt, but he made me laugh at the same time, so that was absolutely worth it.
So
let's jump into
it. So sex, right? Wow. Now that I have everyone's attention. Now that I have everyone's attention. No, so to end last week, everyone, please sex. People will either get real embarrassed, they blush, but you get their attention.
It's true.
That's what I want to do. So, yeah. No, we finished. We're getting into, at the end of last episode, Kat wanting to ask about dating as transgender.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a question that like I'll get from people knowing that we work together and we're close. And it's like, so they're like, not to be dumb, but like, does transgender date transgender? Like depending on your operation and your change, how does that work? What we don't know. And it's like, well, it's okay not to know, but it's how everyone is. Everyone's polite. They don't want to ask. They don't want to offend, but they're curious. So maybe if just to pick up where we left last, so start there on maybe your dating history, and then elaborate more on like, I don't want to say what's common or what's known or just what done, I guess.
Yeah. So, right off the bat, just to touch on something that we talked about last week about kind of, that we discussed a lot of like what you're allowed to ask or talk about and things like that. And I know a lot of what we're doing here is with the end goal of hopefully opening those doors for folks and encouraging people to ask questions, and go after some curiosities that they might have always wondered about, but were uncomfortable about and everything like that. And when we create the safe space, then it's okay. But just like, we had mentioned that, walking up to any person and asking what their gender is not, okay. Mm-hmm. Same thing, walking up to any person, and this is not, a new concept, but you can't go up to somebody and say, do you like boys or girls? Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you lesbian? It's not something that, but it is absolutely something that everybody wonders about. I think it's ignorant to think otherwise. We do. I do. Listen, when you're, and when you're single, especially, or if you're looking for a partner, you want to know who's on what team.
People are curious, even if like they just know you are straight or gay. Like, so are you dating anybody? And it doesn't. Yeah. It's like, people are just nosy. That's just, they're.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's how it goes.
It is in our nature. So all that being said, for me personally, so I identify as bisexual and pansexual, and of course, first just kind of recognizing that sexuality different from gender, also different from sex. They are three different things. And we talked about the gender and sex thing last week, but they are different. There is nothing to say that trans folks or non-binary folks are all of a certain orientation, or even that there's a common thread. We are still just individual people with individual attractions. As far as those labels that I put on myself, bisexual, it's usually kind of the one I put forward first. It is I would think the most applicable. And it simply means that, I am attracted to people who identify as either end of the binary spectrum of gender, as male or female, cis men, cis women. That's that. That's how they present. That's how they identify. And that's that. Pansexual comes in to help describe or identify somebody who finds attraction to people outside of the binary. And so that includes trans folks. That also includes androgynous individuals. That includes non-binary folks. And, as we've kind of progressed in our understanding of different identities and everything's like that, I just said everything's, but everything like that, we've learned that there are more terms needed to correctly and respectfully identify different folks.
Addison, can I stop you for just a second?
Yes,
when you
of course.
say pan, what does pan, for people who are listening, what does pan stand for, so they understand is pan acronym? Most people are going to go, what does that mean?
No, it's a phenomenal question, and I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. I don't know.
I love that. That's fun.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure that it stands for, but if there's somebody that's going to eat me alive for this answer, I don't know.
No, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but what's going to happen is and cis, all of the different terminology, people are going to go, what does that mean? And I want people to be more loving and kind to all of it. That's why it's important.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not sure that it has. I don't know that it's an acronym. Of course, bisexual is a little more, it's a binary. So, and I mean pan. We are. It's a broader meaning term in general. Okay. Yeah. And I think that may be the only kind of etymology of that. But yeah, that is kind of where I fit in, just because I have experienced, physical attraction towards people outside of the binary. And I do think pan is also it's a really useful and really good term for people to start kind of understanding and working into their own daily vocabulary, just because I think it describes so many people. I mean, so many people, Bowie. Yeah. David Bowie.
Yeah.
I don't know a single human being that is not attracted to David Bowie at some point, in his different images and identities and everything like that. And he went through, obviously, always really kind of played with gender expression and androgyny and everything like that. And being attracted to a very androgynous David Bowie, even though he's still David Bowie, or David Bowie as Aladdin Sane, that's a pansexual attraction. It's outside of the binary.
Yeah.
And so it's just so much more common. It's a lot more inclusive at the end of the I see it
as
people.
Kind of, for people listening, I see it as kind of panoramic, basically.
There you go.
A full view, which is so true, because somebody like David Bowie, you really do, on so many different levels. He's an entertainer, so you see so many different levels of who he is sensually, sexually, as a person, intellectually. Yeah.
Yeah,
so actually really good that you brought David Bowie up, because that's
it's a big one for me personally. So it's just right there. But yeah, so that's how I identify. As far as my dating life, it's been a journey, just like everything else. I came out as bi, kind of to myself and just a couple of really close friends. when I was about 13. And I understood that as I found myself attracted to certain men or images of guys, namely Johnny Depp. It was a phase. Pirates of the Caribbean had just come out. We were all doing it. So that was kind of where
I'm still in that phase.
I don't blame you.
I got a tattoo.
I'm in there with you. There you go. Incredible. I've learned so much. But yeah, so that was kind of where a lot of those realizations started. And it was obviously more than that. That kind of simplifies it a little bit, but it was more than that. And so that was that. I realized that was a truth that I was living and that I was feeling very earnestly. And so I did. I came out as bi, again, very quietly. And it was also right before I had started to really explore different gender expression. Before I went to my first midnight showing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show and everything like that. And just, opened my eyes to a broader world. But yeah, from an attraction standpoint, it was guys and girls, just, unique personalities, depending. I really only dated girls through all my high school years, at least as far as like committed relationships go. And absolutely by the time I, hit freshman year of college, 4 years later, I kind of started to feel like, I don't know, maybe this wasn't what I thought it was, as far as my sexuality goes. And like after a while, if you only date girls, does that just make you straight? And we were wrong about the other thing, which I will say is a huge, not even misconception, but just kind of, it's stronger than a misconception that people feel towards folks that identify as bisexual, that they say, if you're in a committed relationship with somebody of whatever sex that person is, then you are that thing. Or if you are a bisexual woman and you marry a man, you are straight. And that's just not true. It doesn't change the identity. Yeah. But I had gone through that kind of imposter syndrome, if you will. But continued that was my identity, and continued to date women and everything. But I got kind of a second awakening of my attraction to men after I had started taking hormones. And so real quick on that, that is not a universal experience. There is no proven, scientifically validated connection between medically transitioning and sexual attraction or physical attraction. However, I know that a lot of folks do experience it, but it is not like a proven thing. Yeah. One of the first things that does happen when you start taking hormones, especially estrogen, is sex drive goes out the window.
I know.
It
Bummer.
Doesn't, yeah. It's not even on the mind. And it, in my experience, that was great. I welcomed that. Because it was a feeling that was quite frankly tied to a part of my body that was the most triggering for me, and I hated it. And so I was happy to not think about sex anymore.
Addison, I have to stop you for 2
Talk
seconds.
to me.
Yes.
The reason I'm laughing at this moment is because when I did steroids, for bodybuilding, shame on me. Not shame. Well, shame on me, but I'm just being honest. The first thing I will tell you that went nuts was how much I thought, about sex. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talk about it in seminars. What happened to me in my journey to want to make a muscular physique. Wow. So you had the reverse of it. I was thinking,
absolutely.
I walked into every building like,
Like I said earlier, sex, right? This is where we go with this.
That's exactly where this is going, because that's all I thought about 24/7. I thought, no, this is not cool, because it's uncomfortable.
But we talked about this a little bit. Kat and I talked about it separately about, it's like when you're a teenage boy and you start to get those hormones, and that's all you think about, and you don't know how to control it. And, as you get older, you can still think about it. You just know how to control it more. I mean, there's sometimes, depending on situations, how long it's been, where you're at, whatever you're drinking, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, it can be more or less than normal. But like the thought is still there. That drive is still there. Then obviously you hit a certain level, and then you can talk about like, low tests and all that kind of stuff, but that's a little different. But like that's why they do it, because, it will drive that sex drive up. Like Kat was just saying, she took it. She's like, wow, I got this drive. And
but estrogen and progesterone will knock you completely the opposite way. So
trying to relate that to, like Kat, we talked about before, like going through like the premenopause stage, like, and how it saps that away. So like trying to explain to like a guy who's not taking anything like that, it's like, okay, so you have this sex drive, right? Then it's gone. Like imagine waking up and just being like, well, why is that not working? It's like, I'm seeing what I normally would see that would make this work, but it's not working. So it's just like, but could you imagine just flipping that around, like how that would be? I mean, it's just like, well, this is what you deal with.
Like what Addison's going with that, like what you're going with, you the minute you took hormone replacement, you probably went, wait a minute.
What was the time
I was thrilled. I'm sure. I mean, it really is. It's because at that point you're so desperate to go through some sort of concrete change, and to not deal with this day-to-day dysphoria. And it's not to say that dysphoria goes away, but dysphoria is an illness, and so taking hormones is just another way of treating it.
Okay, so you being excited of losing your sex drive, did any of that have to do with being sort of like frustrated with not being able to control your sex drive? Like were you kind of like, well, I want to be focused on a man, or I want to be focused on a woman, but I'm not sure if I should, but if it's gone, then you don't have to deal with that mental struggle?
Yeah, that's actually a super on point question, and I feel very seen right now. Thank you. I absolutely went through that, especially in the year or two leading up to the time when I came out. And I would, because I would go out, and maybe I was presenting femme, and I would see somebody, man or woman, didn't matter, that I was attracted to. But yeah, it always felt like there would be an immediate hurdle to get over, even before we get into like, hey, how are you? What are you drinking? And, or if I would go out, mask, see a guy or a girl. Okay, great. But what happens? Do they come back to my place and see my collection of heels lined up against the wall? And then where do we, it changes. It changes everything. You don't know how to act anymore. And all you can think about is what that person is not going to like about you. And so then you start to war with, do I tell the person? When do I tell the person? So on and so forth. And that part of it doesn't go away. Being trans and out publicly for over 2 years now, and having, at least tried to get back into dating, that part of it really doesn't go away. I've gone really back and forth with, on dating apps and such. Do I identify on the apps as a trans woman or as a woman? And
is that an option?
What's best? A lot of them are actually getting a lot better about that. And so currently, the ones that I use, when I go through that setting up of the profile, I identify as a trans woman. There was a time though where I would kind of, I felt like I didn't want to be untruthful or untrue to my own identity. but I didn't want it to be the first thing because I'm a lot of other things besides trans.
Right.
I just put a picture of the trans flag as one of my pictures on the dating app, as one of my profile pictures, and a little caption that said, "If you don't know what this means, please ask." Which really translated to, "If you don't know what this means, please Google," but it's shocking how many people don't know how to use Google, apparently. And I usually had to ask them to ask still. But yeah, there were a lot of situations where I would get into talking with somebody, you know, from one of those apps, and after a few days of talking, or if the conversation felt good, you know, the autocorrect in my phone started to recognize the right next word, because I would always have this one question like, "Well, do you know what the last picture on my profile means?" And the answers varied. Sometimes it was yes, and we would just continue to talk, and great. Sometimes it was no, and I would have to tell them. Sometimes it was, "I think I know, but I'm scared to ask." And I'm like, "Well, I just asked you, so the barriers are down."
Right.
But yeah, it always kind of felt like this weird sort of game of tag of nobody really wanting to say the thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of different elements at play, you know. There's a term, it's not like the most pleasant term, but it's called chasers. And it is a term that is used to describe people who basically fetishize trans folks, and the fetish is based on an attraction to somebody who is usually, you know, pre-op, as we say, or has not had bottom surgery, who identifies as trans. And I'm not here to demonize anybody's attractions or anybody's fetishes, but it does become a problem, because it can often, you know, turn into the person with the attraction taking control of the other person's identity and saying, "I'm attracted to you, but only like this." And it's still putting, you know, parameters on somebody who has already in their own existence burst out of society's parameters.
Yeah.
You know, and it's trying to kind of quarter them back in. So there are a lot of different elements there. I've run into those. But you know, dating now, it is, yeah, it's really interesting. You kind of have to relearn everything. After that time when, you know, sex drive goes out the window, when it comes back, it definitely comes back with a vengeance, but in a really different way. And you want different things from people and from physical interactions. And you have to really, you know, yeah.
Sorry, what's the, so it goes away and it comes back. What is that time frame where you're mentally changing kind of your thought process? And what's that, when does it come back? What's the time frame for that? And like, when it comes back with a vengeance, is it aggressively, like I said, is it just like you want the feelings, the touch, and the emotion, or is this like, I want to jump on you like a spider monkey, like, because it's been gone for a while, you know what I mean? Like,
or is it something that's kind of so emotional? I'm going with the female side of it, or is it something that's so it's not sexual like that? It's essential. I don't know how to express the difference, but
that's what I meant with like the touch and the affection, just like having that. Be able to have that connection with somebody just being there, maybe, or wanting that or so. Well, explain to us which is how.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a bit of everything. Not to sound like a cop-out answer, but there was a lot of that just desire to be near to another person. A lot of it, I think, is out of a really earnest curiosity because your body is now new. And for all of that experience, as we discussed last week, about kind of being outside of yourself, and feeling like the form that you've inhabited for however long before you realize this truth is not yours, somebody else was like stealing your body. This is now the opposite of that. You feel so in yourself that all you want to do is experience that in the world with other people. And, you know, what does this feel like anymore? What does holding hands with somebody feel like anymore? And it even that simple. And so there's a lot of that. It's exploration. And so it's very exciting. There's a lot of it that's just like really, really invigorating. There is absolutely an element of jump on you like a spider monkey, is I believe your term.
That was the direct quote.
Perfect.
That was indeed the direct quote.
Yes, that
Let's be honest, everybody enjoys that feeling every once in a while. So go ahead.
I definitely
So long.
experienced that.
I don't know. Sorry.
And that I know I mentioned a while back about how I felt like I had a second coming of my bisexuality. That was when that happened. I was out, and timeline wise, it was maybe about a good 6 or 7 months after I had started taking estrogen. And I remember I was out, and I think it was a Sunday, and we, you know, watching football at the bar and everything. And there was a guy that I didn't know, sitting just a bar stool away from me. You know, he looked like he was out of like a Land's End catalog. It was, you know, a puffy vest and a plaid shirt and a lumberjack, if you will. Very attractive, very handsome, classically handsome, old Hollywood kind of guy. And we just struck up a conversation. It was very casual. And at one point, the bartender came over. I was friends with that bartender, and she dropped off a drink and said, "Hey, you know, this was accidentally made. It's like a whiskey on the rocks. Do you guys want it?" We're like, "No, it's noon, but thank you." And she said, "Well, nobody else wants it. I'm going to leave it here." And this gentleman and I continued to talk for another 20 or so minutes. We kind of just traded sips of this cup full of whiskey. At the end of it, you know, he said he had paid his tab, and he said, "All right, I got to actually get back to work. But it was nice to meet you." And he shook my hand, very respectful. And I said, "It was really nice to meet you too." The whole time I had kind of had this like feeling bubbling up of like, maybe you just give me a hug before you leave and we see how that feels. He started to leave. We're using props now. The cup of whiskey was on this side of me, where my hand's this side of me. And as he's leaving, he comes around and from kind of directly behind me, reaches all the way around to get the cup. And he goes, screw it. And he drinks the rest of the whiskey and puts the cup down right where it was. And he goes, "Nice to meet you," and walks out the door. And I don't know that I was really capable of standing up for the next 10 minutes. And that was a thing that happened. And I was shook about it. Because it was different. That was attraction to me in a really, really different way. And to a person that I, you know, previously would never have thought myself to be attracted to. In high school, I know I mentioned, you know, Johnny Depp and Pirates, but when I was younger, I really was more attracted to androgynous men and kind of more, you know, effeminate presenting men in general. Never this more stereotypical mask, broad shoulders, plaid, you know, lumberjack type of thing. Yeah. And all of a sudden it just switched, and that is maintained. And that is, I absolutely, yes. And so, yeah, that was a kind of fresh, you know, second realization of, yeah, definitely still like boys, just different ones. But yeah, I go out with everybody. I'm attracted to people, and that's that. Yeah.
You know, Addison, I like hearing you say that because there are a lot of people who are attracted to a lot of people, and they don't discuss it. Whether transgender, bisexual, gay, heterosexual, whatever we're going to call, we give a bunch of words for it. Will come across a female to a female and just be incredibly attracted. I've found so many women in my life who I have sat with and gone, "Wow, you are an incredibly attractive human being." And very few people are willing to admit that because they attach everything to sexuality. Not everybody, but a vast majority of people attach everything to sexuality.
I think men are more afraid to admit that than women. I think
Agreed.
Women will appreciate each other more. If like the straight man's like, oh man, Brad Pitt, I mean, he's a cool dude. He's an attractive guy. He's got a great bone structure, cheekbones, and a body. Get over it. Like, just get comfortable with yourself. It's okay to admit to it. But I think that's right. I mean, people are sometimes afraid to admit certain things.
Yeah.
Because of the judgment they may get off of something as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, and there is also, I think, a really key difference that people aren't, not that they're not willing to recognize sometimes, but I think that they're just kind of conditioned to not recognize, which is the difference between recognizing attraction in somebody else and to somebody else and actually being sexually attracted to that person.
Right.
And they're very different things, of course. And yeah, so I just think it's something that's becoming more open, which is really good because we're moving away from this idea that there are phases to sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
That's so detrimental because by definition, that invalidates it. It means it's temporary. It means probably that there's a choice behind it. There's a lot of different, kind of inferences there that aren't helpful at all and are really, really dangerous. But moving away from that, to say that's an attractive person. Do I want to go home with that person? Maybe yes, maybe no. It doesn't change anything. It can just actually be attraction without a prefix.
And Addison, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
That people may want to ask and won't ask, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. And you've spoken about it with testosterone versus estrogen and progesterone, but do you find now, sensually and sexually, that you have an absolute black or white feeling for how women feel about their world looking at men? Mm-hmm. Vice versa, and how men do? Do you could you say to a standard person listening right now that, I can physically feel an absolute physical feeling of the difference between testosterone and progesterone and estrogen? I know that's I'm putting you in the corner on that one because it's always been the big conversation.
Right. That because people base these kind of thoughts and assumptions of inherent differences.
Of course, they say women are crazy because we have estrogen. That's not the case. We just have a different hormonal structure.
Right.
Y'all are perfect. We're not crazy.
Thank you.
It's a tough question.
It's tough, and I think part of the reason it's tough is because of I have a certain level of disconnect from my former identity. Mm-hmm. That is, a lot of it's definitely purposeful. It's a defense mechanism. And then a lot of it's also was out of my control. During that period of the earlier stages of realization, there was that really scary feeling of looking even at my own reflection or at recent photographs of myself, and straight up not recognizing that person. And that's really jarring. And so that part of it was out of my control. I do feel that after a certain amount of time, I'm in a place of a little more balance and being able to look at pictures sometimes and talk about certain things, certain aspects of that life and of that identity, and not have any really ill feelings towards that person. And I do refer to them as that person. They were a different person, and that's fine. Yeah. I have a lot of empathy for that person and what they went through. And yeah, I guess I wish they hadn't gone through it, but then there wouldn't be me. So it's, perspective. As far as like being able to look at, the differences and recognize that I've gone through both, it's more like there are microcosms of that. And I know we didn't get into fitness at all last time, but that has actually been a really key example of that, I think, or a clear example of that, wherein I did spend a lot of years of my life creating a much more stereotypical muscle heavy masculine shape. And I spent years just lifting heavy, eating, excess calories and trying to gain size and hypertrophy and everything like that. And now I've gone the other direction and actively trying to lose weight and lose size and mass and everything like that, and experiencing what hormones, both naturally occurring and then, taken, can do to muscle development and distribution and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And just the difference between inherently being able to, do a certain amount of push-ups and then failing after 3 of them and wondering what happened. And that I do feel very confident in kind of looking at, and it's part of what drives me in the fitness community and in the fitness world professionally, is just that experience to say that, I know it's a cliche, but anything is possible. Truly anything is possible, with the right guidance and motivation, work and resources and everything like that, because I feel to a certain extent that I've done it. And, I was 210 pounds at one point. And yeah, it was, I was big. I was big. And,
muscle, like muscly big?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah. I was lifting really, really, really heavy. And I think my legs were always a little bit stronger, especially just because I have long arms. So like getting a super high, bench press PR is a little tougher, but,
know that feeling.
Yep. But I mean, my deadlift got like right up around like 500 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And squats were 354. It was, okay. I was in it. And I loved it. Until I didn't. And then it was really, really tough. And I did even go through times of, kind of fighting off these feelings of wanting to present femme at a time when I weighed 210 pounds and super muscular and everything like that. And I would try to maybe put on a dress or anything and I hated it. I thought it looked foolish and I couldn't, and this was also years and years ago. There weren't as many people out there, as many amazing, female athletes out there, showing their experience. And now you go online, you go on Instagram and you see all these incredible female powerlifters and bodybuilders and everything. Yep. And that's incredible to me to see these people that it's not about aesthetics always. And and they can be. And I see these other women that are pushing an incredible weight and then they'll show up in a cocktail dress. And I'm like blown away by that. Yeah. And I love that. I love that that's where the world is. And I love that that's what we're showing young people and young girls. But that wasn't as readily available at the time that I was going through this. So that to me, from like that kind of, like I said, more tangible microcosm is a way that I do think I can look at very clear differences between men and women. At the same time, I always have that kind of filter up on that statement that wants me to say, but it's more than men and women. Everything it is still a spectrum. And so the gender binary is dead. And we've just moved beyond it at this point, I think. And we're at least trying to as a global society.
Will you tell them the story? I believe you told me of when you had posted workout videos before male, and then you posted as female, and just the interaction that was, I guess, told to you, or you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. For a while, I was not like super active on social media, so I wasn't one to post too much. But every now and again, if I, accomplished a new, PR in the gym or anything like that I wanted to share that I was proud of, I would, back in like my heavy lifting days. And it was always if there was any reaction, it was commendation and it was encouragement and, everything. When I finally got back into the gym, after the better part of a year of being out and on hormones, and I had already started taking group classes at Barry's and everything. And I was like, okay, there is a way to lift weights and not do what I did in the past. And I went back to the gym that I had previously gone to. Kind of had to relearn how to do a squat and everything, but eventually posted a video. The first one was of a squat and the second one was of a deadlift. And these were maybe a month or two apart. And they were just that. They were just kind of prideful moments for me of like, hey, look, I got my deadlift back up, heavier than my body weight. This is like a big deal for me. Or anything like that. On both of those videos on separate accounts, I had people that I know comment on them regarding my form or regarding, careful not to lift too heavy because it will hurt your bones when you're older or anything like that. And it just struck me, and again, this could be my brain kind of reading too much into things, but it just struck me as like, guys, I've been doing squats for years. This is not, I don't all of a sudden not know how to do this because I'm lifting a lot lighter weight or it's been a long time or anything like that. It was just so fascinating to me. And again, I do that a lot. I put a lot of stock in something that might not totally earn it. But I do think it's a possibility that because of how we're trained in our society and what we learn from such a young age, that's gym culture. I mean, we all see it of guys wanting to correct girls' forms and wanting to jump in and be that knight in shining armor when it's just not always necessary or wanted.
Or wanted. Yes, I know that one. Been there.
Yes. So yes, treat me like a girl, but not in the gym.
Oh, I love it. That's great. We're going to make a brand spanking new t-shirt.
I'm here for
Write that down.
I got them, new t-shirts. So let's dive into a little bit more
The technical.
serious, I guess, the procedure, the surgery.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've got to grab some water.
based on
Please forgive
before.
me, Josh. I've got to run and grab some water because I'm about to cough too much.
You're fine. I got you.
Keep talking.
We won't say anything bad while you're gone. So I know we talked a little bit about it before, just the time off. But we've done a little bit more, sort of like research on how the procedure, well, I know I have, Kat and I talked about how it is actually done. Go into like how they're using the same parts, the sensitivity, if there's any things that you have to do on your own, whether it's extracurricular activities you have to help yourself kind of get adjusted to, I guess you could say.
That's the best term for it that I've heard so far. So
yeah,
thank you.
it's a little self-love.
Yes. Yes.
Did I miss something?
No, we were just saying how great you were. We couldn't do this without you.
Exactly. And then I heard self-love and I went, wait.
Always here for some self-love. So I know we mentioned last time, the surgery is completely organic. It is, also I listened back to something that I mentioned, last time about the kind of multiple procedures in one. I just want to clear something up real quick. I know I mentioned, the orchiectomy, which is removal of the testicles and can be done independently of the rest of the surgery. And then the, sorry, I think there's a siren coming through maybe.
Yeah.
And it's going away now. I think we're better. Yes. So the orchiectomy, and then there's vaginoplasty, which is essentially building a working vagina, and then labiaplasty. And just real quick, labiaplasty is something that can be done we might have touched on this, and is often done, undergone by a lot of different women. And it's also not a necessity in the when we generally talk about gender affirmation surgery for male to female surgeries. It's not required. It is sometimes kind of wrapped into the whole thing, but I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want to put any misinformation out there. Labiaplasty can be its own thing for biological women, trans women, so on and so forth. But yeah, so that is the surgery, and it's completely organic. As far as, sensitivity goes, you asked about that. It's subjective, completely subjective. So the surgery itself and kind of the building of the vagina is, it's basically done based on the initial anatomy of the patient, where that skin really comes from. It's all from the the genital area, but everyone's built a little differently, and so it might be more from the area of the scrotum or more from the penis, so on and so forth. Right. And very case by case, very, again, subjective. We're all unique, and so levels of sensitivity can vary there. It's generally understood that the level of sensitivity of a trans woman's vagina is, or rather, a trans woman's clitoris is less than that of a biological woman. And that's simply because the parts that are being used to build that vagina are not as sensitive to start out with. There are just fewer nerve endings. So we're working with less to start. But that's that. But yes, it's, as far as like actual sexual intercourse goes, it's a funny question that I've heard numerous times, which is, do you have normal sex? Which is always a fun one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know what they're asking, but at the same time, what is normal sex? What is normal? Yeah.
I will tell you both what normal sex. Like,
oh, please go on. Let's hear this. No, go for it.
It's darn cold. Don't make me laugh. I'll hack. I'm sorry.
No, I mean it's
no, but you know what they mean.
I know.
Absolutely.
They are referring to heterosexual sex and heterosexual vaginal sex, and which
so
again,
right. So,
that is a very one-dimensional view on things.
That's correct.
But I do get that question, and yes, after the procedure is complete and recovery and everything like that, yes, trans women are capable of having normal, aka heterosexual vaginal sex. That is possible.
How about a better question? Are you able to have an orgasm? Because
yes,
for both male or female, or however normal is, the ability to have an orgasm once the actual procedure is completed, through, you're able to.
Yeah, absolutely. So and really in the same kind of two ways that are possible for biological women, which is through the like stimulation of the clitoris. Again, sometimes a little more difficult for trans women, just because, like I said, it's not starting off as what's used to create that is not inherently as sensitive.
Can I ask an uncomfortable question, as if I haven't already?
Yeah, we're in it, girl.
Yeah, we're in the deep end. But I really want to ask this question because I did a little research, and they were talking about, in terms of the surgery itself, the head of the penis is actually where the stimulation is much like a female's clitoris.
Yes.
And that is the actual piece that is used to create the clitoris. I would expect that that's going to have almost identical stimulation.
Yeah.
So
it's very similar. It just has to do with there is a loss of stimulation in the procedure.
Oh, okay.
You know, in the kind of
It's like
construction of that and everything.
Nerves in a sense.
Yeah.
No
and it's
joke.
not a
It's just like
guarantee.
having a female breast job when
Yeah.
they have to take the areola off. Sometimes you lose absolute stimulation in the nipple.
Totally. And again, it's very subjective. But yes, that is exactly what does happen. That is kind of part to part where things are going. So that is definitely one way. And then the other way, again, very much the same as with those assigned female at birth, is the stimulation of the prostate. And so in women, we know it as the G spot, the ever elusive G spot. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna have to cut that. That was bad.
That was actually,
I don't know where
nowhere to go.
So wow, thank you for just saying it though.
Yeah, I
appreciate you.
I'm here.
But yeah, that is removal of the prostate is not a part of vaginoplasty. And it obviously can be done, but it is a completely separate thing. And with the the reconstruction or the construction of the vagina, how things kind of the result is that the prostate that was already there acts exactly like a G spot. It's the exact same thing, which can also be stimulated through traditional vaginal intercourse to achieve orgasm. So it's that part of the experience, those parts of the experience they're pretty much identical to that of people who are assigned female at birth.
yeah. Oh, wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously I have like a gazillion pictures going through my head right now, but
Sure.
As do many people who are listening right now. But
Yeah.
wow, okay.
I mean, then I know, Josh, you had asked about a certain aspect of the recovery,
Right.
as you so politely put, recreational activities.
Recreational activities. So
Yep.
it's in a sense to sort of trigger it to get it to like start, or to kind of in a sense feel yourself out. I mean, like,
Yeah.
to understand your body
Oh, I see what you're
again
saying.
in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really twofold. So it's referred to as dilation, and it is exactly that. It is using, and we do call them, dilators or applicators. They look a lot like a very common sex toy.
A dildo.
And thank you. And I feel like I'm playing.
I don't have any. I just wanted to be able to say that out loud.
But yes, that's what it is, and it's actually a very kind of structured regimen that must be followed for a lot of time after the surgery. Yeah, it's really, really intensive.
By a lot of time, is that
that makes sense.
over a certain amount of time, or a certain amount of times in a short period of time?
Both, actually. And it changes. The first 8 weeks or so, it's a set amount of time, a set amount of times a day for a set duration.
Wait, so is this like this is like what a young, this is a weird way of putting it, but when we lose our virginity, we have, obviously we have an experience of breaking the hymen. Is this the same type of, you have to go through the process of, not that in general, but of, I'm stumbling on my words.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Because, well, and I think that's also just a valid point. There is no hymen. But it's like I said, I think it's twofold. Yeah. It's a muscle, it's a new body part. We're training that body part. And again, it is organic, and throughout the healing process, which, I mentioned last time, is very, very lengthy. We're talking realistically the better part of a year before like a level of normalcy is returned to the person's life. And
define normalcy.
I able to work an intense 40+ hour work week, able to exercise at the previous level, everything like that. Yeah, it's a very long process, and it's not to say that we're completely bedridden for 6 months. We're pretty much bedridden for a few weeks at least, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But you know, it's because of the dilation schedule that you have to keep up with, and the just kind of adapting to that new, you know, aspect of your existence, of your physical existence. There's another siren going by. We know there's a lot going on, you know, in Nashville.
Off some heat out there. That's all that's going on. That's just, you know.
Thank you for that assessment. Yeah, no,
I see.
But yeah, yeah, that's where that longer kind of view of recovery comes in. And it looks different for everybody. You know, normal life looks different for everybody. But yeah, as far as how long it is until I can do some jump squats, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. But yeah, the dilation is a really big part of it, and it is very practical because it's growing, and as the body heals, it's going to want to go a certain way, and you don't want to lose that. You don't want to, you know, lose depth is what we say. You know, it's you don't. That's what dilation is a really big part of, and then just to train this new part of your body, and everything, and you gotta learn how to go to the bathroom again.
I was going to say that's got to be and by the way, a big shout out for brand new guest Bets Wilson for subscribing. Thank you for subscribing, honey.
Yes.
Do you have a catheter for the first, you know, I this is weird to say because I've had a breast job. I will tell you that there's a whole process that you have to go through with massage, same thing that that you have to go through just to try to get everything to work, but certainly not in terms of urinating and that type of thing. Do you have to have a catheter for a certain period of time?
Yes. For basically I believe it's about 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
While your body learns how to, because it's the exact same. I mean, you're using the muscles at the bottom of the for.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good question.
Yeah,
it's a great question because I think a lot of people. I mean, I wouldn't even have thought about that. I mean, because I think since we kind of brought up the topic of like, you know, sex and stimulation and things like that, do you forget about little things like having to use the bathroom, like having
to wee?
They have to just like reach. I don't know if re-channel is the word, but for your urethra, like that's
yeah. I mean, kind of biologically or functionally, everything's, you know, ready to go, so to speak, in that respect. But just the day-to-day function of it.
That's probably,
you know, and it's that is a different element. You know, I'm a girl. I've been sitting down to pee for years, but that's still different than how it's going to be, you know, once everything's done.
Right.
So there's a lot to it.
I'm going to guess it's a lot less traumatizing. This is just a joke amongst the women. We always say, my gosh, how difficult and challenging it must be to have a penis. I'm not afraid to bring up the verbiage because
no, absolutely.
But we always go, this is just girl talk because oh my gosh, how could you walk around with that, you know, and to go to tinkle, to have to go to the bathroom, standing at all this jazz.
I mean, I'll tell you, I am so tired with that thing. I'm done. I'm just done. It's and I've done some writing about this as well, but you know, it's
Josh is very silent.
We disagreed on something. We finally that's become one of my favorite people in the world, and we finally found something we disagree on.
Listen, darling, we couldn't be perfect matches.
Everything. We found one thing we disagree on.
I don't want it. But you know, so even just on a day to day, with getting dressed and. You know, again, you know, professionally in the fitness world, I have the option of wearing running shorts or leggings every single day, and that's great. I love to do that. It can be difficult to hide things in a pair of leggings, quite frankly. And there's the option of what we call tucking, which is a very familiar term, especially for anybody in the drag community, drag queen community. And it's exactly what it sounds like. And it involves a couple of feet of tape, and you get used to it, but it's not uncomfortable once it's done. But taking that tape off never fun. It's not good. It's not a good experience. And it's not a bulletproof solution, especially if you're going to go on a run or anything like that. If you were to really want to be active, things like that. So there is that. There's also something that's known as a GAFF, GAFF. And this is basically, it kind of otherwise looks like underwear, like a thong, but on the inner lining, in the kind of crotch area, it's basically, it's almost got like I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. It's designed on the inside to conceal biological male's genitals. Yeah. And to basically do the job that tucking does, but without having to use tape and go through that process. And it's not perfect. It doesn't work for everybody. So there's just different elements there with the day-to-day of what you do, how you dress, because, even if that part of your body doesn't initially cause or inherently cause a great deal of dysphoria for you, it triggers a lot of other things. And you then maybe feel like everybody's looking.
Welcome.
And that's terrible. Or if you're going to tuck and tape, are there going to be weird lines all under your leggings? Like panty lines are one thing. Right. Weird cross-directional diagonal things are a different thing. And so there's just a lot of things to consider there. So yeah, even on something like that, it can be really difficult to deal with a part of your body that just doesn't belong and does you zero good. It's not doing me any favors. And
Josh is like, I disagree.
And that's great.
I plead the fifth on this one.
And that's great for you. And I love that for you. But yeah, it's just, it'll be really nice when we can just throw on a thong and a pair of leggings and be done with it.
That's the way it goes.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Addison, can I tell you a hysterical story from my conservatory years?
Please.
We're just gonna and Josh, I don't know if I told you this one. I was in musical theater for years, but I just have to add a little comedy. I'm not going to tell you his name, but he was a dear, dear friend of mine and a roommate of myself and one of my best friends. No. What's that?
His name was Tom.
No, his name was Tom. No, I'm just kidding. No, his name was not Tom.
You're the best.
He and I shared, and Tom and I do not share musical theater together, but he and this gentleman share musical theater together. And I have to tell you this because this is humorous. Speaking of genitalia, I'm in brushing my teeth. So I'm in classical theater conservatory now, and as was he. And so since we shared musical theater together, everything was about musical theater and singing and dancing. And so he's taking a shower. I'm brushing my teeth. It's early and we have to get to a class. And, we got to find some sort of comedy. We're in Boston. It's freezing cold. And he whips open the shower curtain. And I can't believe I'm saying this loudly. And he tucked everything under. And he goes, "Good morning, Kat. How are you?" It was the most humorous moment I've had in a very long time at that point, it was so humor because we were just having a tough, when you're in conservatory, you're constantly being watched for everything you're doing. Mm-hmm. And we were really tough around the edges at this point. And this moment was humorous because I've never seen male genitalia look like a vagina. Mm-hmm. and he was, he and I always joke that if we turned 40, which we already have, and we're still single, and which we both are, we'd get married. That didn't happen. But
that's what we're doing on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so Sunday is the wedding.
Sunday at
Amazing.
Gonna fly him in from Los Angeles.
Meet and greet that we're doing at Anzi Blue. We're gonna have a wedding now.
Just a quick
Exactly
impromptu
it. I
thing.
think
Yes.
that his boyfriend will be very mad at me, but that's okay. We're just gonna call this the one way we will. Listen, you guys, I've never seen a moment though where I've actually, because I'd never seen penis tucked and scrotum tucked completely under it. He did it as a haha funny, but we laughed until we snotted. But but interesting moment in my life.
Yes,
I've never seen that before.
And you know, it really can be a very it can be a very effective tool. Absolutely. I
just call it a Monday for me.
What'd you say?
What?
Nice.
Sorry.
A what?
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Addison.
No, not at all.
Sorry, Addison.
Always do.
I think the tape would make it far more traumatizing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a process. I mean, but I did it. You know, I've done it to go swimming. You know, you get some good waterproof medical grade tape, and you go to town, and it's and it does work in a sense, like, but it is work, and it's physically exhausting, and then there's this added level of anxiety and everything like that.
Yeah, and I'll say the mental anxiety that you're, in a sense, having to put yourself through. It's just not fair.
And real quick, if I may, kind of odd third party plug here, just because if there's any girls like me watching or listening down the road somewhere, and again, everybody's different, but I found a lot of kind of day-to-day success, for lack of a better term, in women's kind of sport briefs, and probably go a size smaller than you think you're going to need to, and it's like a high compression thing, but I've been able to actually, full disclosure, now everybody knows my trade secrets. That's what I do. That's what I wear on a daily basis, because your girl is not taping up every morning. We're just not dealing with that. Plus you got to retape every time you go to the bathroom.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should have bought stock in some medical grade tape. But it's,
maybe we can get a plug for Acorn's app. They do stock trade.
There you go. Nice.
Got it.
Nice. Smooth transition. And I'm one to talk. But but yeah, that has worked for me as like a day-to-day fix solution, so on and so forth. So if you need that, hit me up on Instagram. We'll talk about underwear. I got you covered. It's literally happened before. I've talked to some girls about it, and it's a real thing. But yeah. And I hate
funny
to
you
do
say
this.
I got you covered, pun intended.
Hey now. Well supported. I need to jump off here for just 2 seconds, y'all. I will be right back.
That's okay.
You.
Don't worry. Josh and I will take care of this.
Don't say anything bad about you.
Don't say a darn word bad. No, you know what? I love the fact that Addison is so freaking honest about everything.
Open. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, little things about, the bathroom thing. If you have to tape, you have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
But while we got some time, while Addison's gone, let's talk about the meet and greet on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
Not
at Ansi, but Anzi Blue.
At Anzi Blue, over in Belmead, we have we're doing a meet and greet on Sunday for all our subscribers, everyone who's liked the YouTube page, who's gone to visit Instagram. From 1:30 to 3:30, we're gonna do some drinks, mimosas. Anzi Blue, Marcy and Derek are friends of ours. I've known them for a few years. They're amazing. They're going to give us access to the coffee shop. It's not your average coffee shop.
Nope.
We're going to come in and have some drinks, maybe. What's that?
It's an amazing coffee shop.
An amazing coffee shop.
Let's just go with the CBD. Well, I'll let you tell.
Oh, no, you're good. It's perfect. With the CBD line that they offer, I think will be great for people to come and who have any questions about it.
Yeah.
We'll have people there to answer any questions they may have. But Just from 1:30 to 3:30, if you want to come by, say hey, hang out for a little bit. We'll be there. It's also like we mentioned before, if you could bring any sort of supplies with you, whether it is cleaning supplies or toiletries or anything like that, that would be water, anything. It would be great. But again, that's just 1:30 to 3:30 on Sunday, and we'll plug that in at the end of this as well.
Oh yeah, and
But
you can look at all of our Instagram and Facebook and all the other social media, and you'll see the actual address for it.
Addison, so like you said, people have questions. You get a lot of questions from the women at the gym, everything. I feel like sometimes people have questions. They're just afraid or they're too polite to want to ask. Are you okay would you prefer people, like, are they okay with people wanting to talk to you in person? Or maybe they say, hey, I've got a question about this. Or like we talked about before, there's people who maybe in a situation where they are not comfortable with maybe they're whether it's family, town, living situation, whatever it may be. But they want to ask, like, or, with being able to like DM you or ask questions or, anything like that. Is that something that you are comfortable with, or something that, or are there, places they could turn to for answers for that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So always, I'm more than happy to make new, Instagram friends, near or far. There's an incredible community out there. It's exactly where I turned, Instagram and YouTube and everything, when I didn't know where else to go. And I feel like I know these people, and I've never met them in person. But I feel like I've been there when they've gone through their surgeries, and they're here now and everything. Yeah. It's really, really amazing, how quickly you can realize that you are not alone. So please always do not be afraid. My Instagram is public. So you can just find it there. It's, the handle is the Axiom of Addison. I'll explain that over coffee, but it's but yeah, the Axiom of Addison. And
NC Blue on Sunday. Great coffee.
There you go. Thank you. That was a good tie-in.
You like that little boom?
Naps, yes. But yeah, please, find me there. And as far as other resources, I don't want to misquote the name, so I'm going to just pull it up real quick. There is a fantastic Facebook group. It's LGBTQIA Nashville. Okay. That's it. Please join that group, and you can post anything and everything. It's a completely safe space. And I'm on there. So I read all those posts. I'm not like an administrator or anything. But I see the public posts that come in because I get the notifications. And there's been plenty of times when it's, I've had the opportunity to comment on somebody's post or message them. And again, it's just another really, really good local outlet, to let us know that there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of us right here in Nashville. And when I say us, I just mean queer folks in general, folks under the rainbow. And we're doing really good. So it's,
and I think it's also good, for those who may have friends or family who they may know are in this position, but they're not comfortable with being out. So if you have questions yourself, or you're curious so you can help someone else, jump on, because and if I'm wrong, correct me, but like, it's not just for the queer folk. It's not for that. Like, there are plenty of straight people around, who they have friends they want to help and talk. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on, because we all deal with this. And I know I've got people who personally deal with family members that they want to help, but they don't know how to help. And
right.
It may be a good way for them to get questions to answers that they can
absolutely
roll over towards their.
Yeah, and to that end, I mean, there's that Facebook group is fantastic, but there's a couple of just really great organizations, kind of depending on where people are at in their journey or who they are, in that person's life. Maybe they're, like you said, they themselves are not the ones figuring out, their identity or anything like that, but maybe they have a loved one, a child, or a parent, or whatever that relationship may be.
Exactly.
There's just some really great organizations. One that's actually very kind of topical is it's called GLSEN, or GLSEN is the acronym, the Gay and Lesbian Student Education Network. And this really primarily deals with kids, like K through 12, and promoting safe spaces, better resources, educational resources, primarily for children of that age and their families. So that one is huge. The Family Equality Council is another really good one. They've been around for decades, and they work more from a legal standpoint. When you have, because so many of the laws that prohibit queer individuals and queer families from living their best lives and happiest, safest lives are state by state. And so the Family Equality Council can come in there and really help to guide those individuals and those families from a legal standpoint of kind of, best action to take or legal resources or things like that. There's the ones that I think a lot of people know, and they're fantastic. HRC or GLAD with 2 A's. There's just a kind of nonstop flow of really amazing people doing great work to educate, and you might not find the answer you're looking for at the first place, but you'll find it, in the next or the one after that, or in a person on Facebook or Instagram. It can be that simple. So I just get on social media, get on the internet, and reach out. You'll get the answers. You'll get a lot of answers. And that's,
You said something very valuable, honey. You're not alone. And so for people who listen to this in the podcast and who are watching live, don't panic. You're not alone. It's very, very important. And I know that Josh is going to close us in a few.
Yeah.
But I know Josh and I both want to say, Addison, thank you so much. I mean, from our hearts, for being so raw and honest and beautiful and extraordinary and courageous to be 100% you. It is really challenging to try not to get emotional, to absolutely own you and love you out loud. And so we love you out loud, and so grateful for you. And love is so many different things. And we tend to put it in a corner at times, but I want you to know that I'm saying thank you for being extraordinary.
Thank you.
I want to second that, but I just want to tell people, man, just talk to people. Like Kat and I became friends through a mutual friend that I only knew for maybe a month through a really good friend. Yep. And that mutual friend is now, not in a bad way, when I say non-existent, we're still good, but like we just don't interact because of business and work. But Kat and I become so close, and then her being honest enough with me to tell me about her, the hormone change I go through as a woman.
Yep. And
then I was like, well, I've got a really good friend who I've only known for a handful of months, who's become one of my favorite people I've ever met, who is really going through at the time I said a process.
Yeah.
And then it unfolds to like, well, now we're going to bring a bunch of people together. And then you start talking like, man, people are like, you know what? I've got questions about this too. Not for me, but for other people. Well, other people have questions for themselves, and they second guess themselves because they were told they're not supposed to second guess themselves. They're from whatever lifestyle being brought up where you're not able to do that. You have, like we were going to talk about later on, about getting to a point in your life as you get a little older, like myself. I mean, nothing against Addison. Like Kat and I are older,
Just a little.
like by 6 months. But it's
Yes.
you
Give or
just
take.
you're like, okay, well, where am I at now in my life? Like I'm trying to be professional. I'm trying to focus on me. I took that selfish time, but I missed this quote unquote like American dream of the family, the white picket fence and everything. But telling people, letting them know that that's okay. Like just because society says you're supposed to be this doesn't mean they're right. Like I always tell people, you got to learn as you get older to forget the things you were taught because the people that taught you were wrong or unnecessarily just maybe just not informed properly. So talking to people, interacting with people, being honest with people can bring so many worlds together because we all three come from completely different lifestyles, but we all came together because we were like, you're kind of cool. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. And that's why we're here. And I think that it's been able to help a lot of people. And I know for a fact it's helped people who won't admit openly and publicly to people. And I get that because do it on your own time. But if you can sit there and be like, I'm listening to this podcast on iTunes,
Yes.
when you're by yourself, like, and this is your time and stuff, great. And if you need to have your moment and it's you versus you and it's your sentimental moment, great. Or if you're like, you know what, I can take this and I think I can share this with somebody else. And I might not know anybody, but man, I'm just talking to somebody and they look not down, but they look like they may need just someone to listen or to maybe they need to hear something. And then they, you know, I heard something. I was listening to this podcast. If you've got questions, I know people. And I think that that's what this will kind of bring together. I mean, I know we normally end the podcast on like these funny notes because like I like to live life with laughter and joy and everything because I just want nothing more than make people smile and have a good time. But I feel like with Addison coming on, it has opened up a world to so many people who have questions, and this just gives them a way to listen and hear and find maybe something deeper in themselves that even if it's not for them, they can help others with. And nothing is more gratifying than being able to help people. And nothing in Nashville specifically with the tornado last night has seemed to make people want to get out and do something than to help other people right now, whether it's with the storm and the debris or whatever. But it's like nothing's more gratifying than allowing somebody to feel better or to feel at peace or comfortable, and you help do that for them. It's such a good feeling on the inside. So again, Aston, thank you so much as I'm rambling here for what you've done, because I think more than you know, as this sweetheart from Philly who's jumped into a middle of nowhere in Nashville, you're spreading a lot of love to people, and you're helping us. I don't say situation. You're helping something grow that needs attention that people have ignored because they're scared to touch base on it. Yeah. And you're opening that up for people, and it only takes that one person. And I think that you are definitely helping be that one person. And so I just want to thank you again for coming on and being part of it and being a part of the team that we have at Barry's and being so loving and welcoming to everybody and just being genuine. And I mean, if more people were genuine, more people would love themselves and not be so upset every night.
So true, Josh. Beautifully stated. True. Oh.
Thank you, seriously, to both of you so much. It's been incredible to be able to talk openly in this kind of setting. And I just want to, if I can say one last thing, kind of piggybacking, Josh, on what you just said about, if more people were genuine. There's this feeling that I know I went through, having realized this truth a little, later in my life when I was in my late 20s, that I know I've talked to other people about experiencing, other trans folks, about feeling like you missed out and feeling like, you know, like you said, like you were robbed, and what time, what years and decades have you wasted living disingenuinely? And if I can say anything about that, because I've definitely felt that, and there's this inherent regret, and there's this, well, now I have to make up time, and what about the things that I didn't get to do, or that I did as somebody else? Those things aren't your fault. It's not your fault that this other identity, that this other person was living your life for you. And that's a really scary thought, that you're not the one living your own life. But we're just not always in control, for any number of reasons. The reason is irrelevant at the end of the day. What matters is that you say, I want to change for me. Right there is more strength in that statement than I think in anything else. And it is the step into a really, really, what can be a really long and really difficult, prejudice-filled, hate and shame-filled journey. But right there, in just saying, I want to live truthfully, and I want to live genuinely, and I just want to live in the first place, because that's what it can feel like when somebody else, when a different identity has lived your life and taken your body for 20 some odd years, or however long it's been, it feels like you never lived at all. Yeah. So just to say that I want to live, that is everything right there. There is so much strength in there. And if you ever get to a point where that's not something you can say anymore, reach out, go somewhere. There are people, there are places, there are phone numbers, there is an Instagram inbox. Please, you deserve that. You deserve that happiness. You deserve to want to be happy in the first place. And that's that. And you haven't wasted anything, because you've literally just blown the roof off of the imitation of existence as we knew it. Right. So go live.
Yes.
Live all that.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Thank you. Thank you for being amazing, you, Addison.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Seriously.
Thank you, Kat, Tom behind the scenes, everyone that's subscribed, liked, that's watching tonight. I know in Nashville there was obviously a lot going on today. Again, anyone that has needs any help, that wants to volunteer, you can jump on any of our Instagrams or Instagram stories. We've got the information up there. Also this Sunday, the meet and greet at Anzi Blue in Belmead. Also the helping support with products and toiletries, anything that may need to be dropped off. You can hit them up. You can also jump in on our Instagram stories. And we will see you Sunday, starting at 1:30 to 3:30. If we don't see you then, we'll see you next Tuesday. We've got a very special topic on Tuesday. We're going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about balancing out your professional life, your personal life, how fitness has helped some people with coming out of certain rough relationships. Sometimes bad relationships make the best new person. So we're going to touch base on that on Tuesday. But until then, we will see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.
You betcha.
Have a good evening.
Love you guys. Always be amazing, you.
Love y'all.